Welcome to Dear Book Coach. I'm Stephanie Detlefs, writer and certified book coach.
I'm Terry Thayer, certified book coach, certified focusing professional, and author.
And I'm Carrie Savage, certified book coach, writer, and project manager.
This is a friendly advice space for you as you plan, draft, and revise your novel. In each video, we answer one question submitted by a writer like you and give our 3 different points of view, and you get to pick the advice that resonates for you. So today we have a question from Karen. Why is the plotter versus pantser debate such a big deal? Is it a personality thing, or is one way really better than the other? Terry, I'm going to give it to you. I know you have strong feelings about this.
I really, really do. I'm a reformed pantser. And just to warn you, like any reformed smoker or alcoholic or congregant, I am evangelical in my thoughts about pantsing. I don't like pantsing. I think pantsing is a fallacy. I became a book coach to help people avoid some of the pitfalls that await writers, and especially writers who do pantsing. I was a pantser most of my writing career, and it really did not serve me. It didn't serve me in writing a series. It didn't serve me in writing on deadline. It didn't serve me as a career writer with multiple contracts. It gave me heartburn and migraines and repetitive strain injury. What it didn't give me was the writing career I could have had. In fact, I crashed and burned. You know, writing a mystery series or fantasy world or sweet romance or thriller, it needs planning. If you're building a world, you need to know what that world is. Throwing things against a wall and seeing what sticks really only works for spaghetti, and nobody appreciates spaghetti on their wall anyway. If you just write and write and write, you will find yourself on page 200, or maybe even worse, page 600, with a giant plot hole that can be fixed only by starting over. I don't think pantsers are really not in favor of planning. I think they're just afraid of it. So they hide behind cries of spontaneity and characters who inject themselves into the story, which to me is the biggest sin of all, because you are writing these characters. They don't get to just jump in your story willy-nilly. And, they call it creative artistic license, but structure and pre-planning doesn't necessarily mean that joy and creativity are restricted. Most of us thrive with some structure. Real freedom comes from knowing why you're writing, what you're writing about, and making choices beforehand. We have said on this thing over and over again that writing is about making choices. So knowing what those choices are beforehand gives you the freedom to write them and write them really well. I say, give your creative muse some guidance and she will thank you for it. And maybe a book coach will help that too. Who's up? Carrie?
I think it's me. And you may have made me change my mind. Look at that. Because when I started thinking about this, I feel like there's something about it that's probably where you first come down on the debate. Either is probably something of a matter of your personality, right? Some of us are just planners naturally, and so outlining would probably feel like the natural place to start, and why wouldn't you? And other people, where it's a creative adventure, and so you're just setting off and you literally just want to set off and start getting things on the page. Personally, I started my current novel as sort of in a hybrid position. I took a class that was all about writing 6 of like your turning point scenes. And at least at the time, those were my turning points. And it was a fine base. And then I sort of went and built an outline around that. And while I don't think it was the worst thing I ever did by any means, I will never do it that way again. I think most of us certified coaches, those of us who've been trained by Jenny Nash and learned about the blueprint method, are proponents of it with good reason. And I think there's also potentially a perception by some people that an outline is sort of like what you used to do in school. That's like, those bulleted points and with Roman numerals and letters and just indentation everywhere. And that's not what we're talking about here when we talk about an outline. So wipe the memories of school projects past from your mind that way. When we talk about outlining and planning, I think what we're all saying really is it's just doing a higher level thinking and planning before you start to write in order to maximize your efficiency and create more polished pages right from the start. And that, of course, you know, if you've watched any of our other videos, you know that we don't think that a blueprint, outline, whatever you want to call it, is a one and done thing. It's a living document that grows and changes as your novel does as well. I mean, mine, I can't even tell you the number of different versions that I have over the course of the 4 years I've been working on this book. So it's an iterative process. It will change, but you will make your life so much easier. And as I also think we've said before, having those sort of that higher level thinking done gives you some touchstones to return to when the going gets tough, especially, you know, our sort of planning, the thinking that we do all around the blueprint, you know, is talking about your higher level why and who you're writing for and those kinds of things. I just can't emphasize it enough. Here, I do it with my clients, that we are always talking about, like when you get stuck and you're having a hard time sort of figuring out where to go next, or why do I want to keep working on this? Those are the touchstones that you go back to when you're struggling, and they can remind you and give you some clarity of vision that you might not otherwise have. So I guess, yeah, I'm down on the plotter side now. But Stephanie, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I had thoughts prepared to answer this question, but now I kind of want to go back to the question for a second because, you know, Karen asked, why is the plotter versus pantser debate such a big deal? And I think that it comes back to something Terry said about people who are choosing just to write by the seat of their pants, which is what pantsing means, rather than thinking through it, are afraid of planning. I think that the whole debate is about fear. It's about fear of doing something wrong. And that is a big thing with creatives, right? Like we aren't sure if what we're doing is good enough, and we fear that there might be a way that we don't understand that is better to do it. So if we're a personality, like Carrie was saying, who falls more on the side of planning in general, like in all areas of our lives, then we might feel like, oh, I'm not creative enough if I'm not just letting the muse take me wherever it's going to take me. And somebody who is more in that mindset might be afraid of like knowing I need to organize, I need to plan it, but I don't know how, and that feels fearful. And so I think that's part of why the debate is big, and I think it is a personality thing. And you know, all three of us are coming from a book coaching perspective, and book coaches will have you plan and organize. If you come to us with a first draft that you let the muse take you, we're probably going to go back to the beginning and do a lot of this initial foundational questioning anyway, right? Like we're going to have you do that. So that's the point of view that we're coming from. As a writer, I was like, Terry, I wrote my first middle grade novel completely by the seat of my pants. I had one scene in my mind that was actually towards the end of the book, and I wrote that one scene, but I had no idea who these kids were or how they got there. And so I just floundered around, and subsequently it took me 5 years to write that book, which is a little bit on the ridiculous side for a middle grade novel because they're pretty short. And then, of course, after going through the process, like both of you have said, of becoming a book coach and learning how valuable some of that advanced planning can be, I am a total convert to front loading the decision making, which is way more of what it is than, like Carrie was saying, it's not about creating your high school English class outline. It's about making decisions and really understanding your story first before you dive in. I think that saying you're either a plotter or a pantser is with nothing in between is misleading. I don't think that's even accurate. I think every writer has their own process, and every project has its own process. And I think most of us probably fall somewhere in the middle of those two extremes. And so my thought is that whether you make these decisions before you start writing or when you're in the revision stage, you're going to have to make those decisions eventually, right? And organize it. So, do what feels best for you. But if you're coming to a book coach, know that that's what we're going to tell you to do.
And come to a book coach. Yeah.
Yeah, come to a book coach because it's good work.
I think those are all really, really, really good points. And so that's it for today. We hope you found an answer that made sense to you at this point in your life, at this point in your book. Remember, you can submit your question anytime at dearbookcoach.com. And while you're there, sign up for our weekly newsletter. When you do that, you'll be eligible for a monthly drawing for a call with a coach. See you next time.